Hello. Prem, can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yes,
Now it is clear?
absolutely clear.
Okay.
That's
So
technology.
that's technology. I think there was a glitch there. So we are back. So Asta, let's dive into the topic. Asta, what does growth typically mean in leadership context, Asta?
Thank you for that, Prem. I feel growth has there are a lot of variables and there are a lot of parameters that individuals and organizations use when it comes to growth.
Hmm.
I just today want to talk about very basic aspects that I feel are missing. So in that sense, I would say we need to move a little um, deeper into the basics of what growth could be. Now, growth could be in terms of numbers, growth could be in terms of maybe my certificates, in terms of how much I'm growing in position, could be my any matrix. But I'm saying, can I look at growth in terms of who I am becoming as an individual? Okay, and that aspect I want to bring in today because I see that's just not talked about at all. So the focus is on what you're doing, how much more you're doing, what more can you do, versus growth, which is who you are becoming. So I would like to your question, growth for me is who am I becoming in the journey of whatever the context is. Who am I becoming? And in that becoming, as I'm progressing, that's growth.
Okay. So it's a journey, is what you're saying. How do you evolve yourself? Maybe
Yeah.
that's
How do you evolve in the sense so that how can I show up in different contexts, in different situations? For me, one big part of it is, let's say, emotions. So how evolved I am in terms of navigating my emotions, right? How do I show up uh, so I have my emotions coming up, I'm aware of what is happening within, and I'm able to own my emotions, manage my emotions, and then express them with maturity also. That's growth. right?
Okay.
Because who I'm becoming will impact my actions eventually, and hence the outcome and the results.
I think that's a very important point. Why do you believe ownership and human connections are essential in today's leadership landscape? Because today the
Oh,
landscape has changed a
yeah.
lot, right? So your take on it.
Yeah. Um, okay. I think in my experience of my corporate journey, how, I used to be who I used to be. And when I see the leaders today, the leaders that I work with, um, so I believe none of us is working in isolation, number one. No matter, even if you're individual contributors, we're working in organizations and there are people around us. We talk about the basic unit, which is family, you're surrounded by people. So we are always surrounded by people. We operate in an environment where there are more and more people. So every business, irrespective of the industry, every business that we are into, we are in the business of people, and therefore um, it is a no brainer that the quality of my experience is going to depend upon the connection, the relation that I share in that context. If it's family, the quality of relations with my family members. If it's my workplace, the quality of relations there. If it's my social life, maybe my friends and acquaintances. So, not all the relations are going to be same, but what kind of a connection do I share? Do I have a connect or not? Is very, very critical. Now, if I talk about leadership context, I feel these two aspects, which is ownership, and we'll talk a little more about what ownership essentially is, but ownership, which means taking charge of whatever it is, whether it is my work, whether it is relationship, whether it is my health, whether it is my finances, it's the fun part in my life, owning it up, right? So that ownership, the moment I take charge, the moment I stand in a place of ownership, I'm owning it. Oh, it's a very, very powerful place to be in. Then there's no blame there, then there's no being a victim there. It's like I take charge of it. And as a leader, if I can own the whole thing, I may be excellent at what I do, but if I'm not owning it, it just spoils the whole game. So I feel ownership, and then building the connection, the camaraderie that is there. It not only creates the whole environment, the whole culture, but it has a huge impact, an unavoidable impact on the performance, and a non-negotiable, I would say, characteristics, both of these for leadership.
Predominantly, there are people who I will do the task, but taking ownership is one thing which people face, right? Now, coming to that, what ownership really means beyond accountability, right? So, one is taking ownership. Are we accountable on what we are taking as it as ownership? Your take on it.
Yeah. So yeah, accountability is one perspective and one aspect of it. Um, I'd say ownership is a, it's a place to be in. It's like, where am I coming from? And when I say ownership, if I really have to look at it, it's a place where I am, like I just mentioned, I'm taking charge, which means
Hmm.
the opposite of ownership would be, um, you know, blaming or being a victim rather. So if I'm being a victim, then I'm not taking ownership. But if I'm being an owner, if I'm taking ownership, then I'm not going to be a victim, right? Oh, this is happening, what can I really do about it? Oh, I had told this person, but if he's not doing it, what can I do? Oh, but the circumstances are such that I can't really help. Or I've told him 10 times, it's just not happening, but these people just don't understand. So if I'm standing at that place, if I'm coming from that place of being a victim and sulking and blaming, then I'm not in ownership. Ownership is a place where I take complete charge. Does not mean everything is my responsibility, may not be. May not be. However, I say that, okay, I own this, which means, um, how do I respond to this particular thing? Not react. How do I respond to this one thing? Even if things are not happening, I would be like, okay, what more could I have done here? Or what's missing on my part? That's one way of looking at it. Or maybe if there's a relationship that's not working, then maybe I get down to saying, okay, what more can I bring to this relation? Or maybe do I need to have a straight conversation? Or maybe it's time for us to part ways now. I'm owning it up, and I own it up because fundamentally it impacts who I'm being, it impacts my peace of mind, it impacts the way I show up. Most of us, and I see so many leaders, they struggle because I'm not taking charge, I'm not taking ownership of it. There is so much of clutter here, there's stuff that's happening here and there, and I'm just not owning it up. And when I don't own it up, the lingering feeling is just going on and on and on. And I get more and more into that victim mode. And when I'm in victim mode, I do not progress. Things don't move ahead. I can keep sulking. I can keep saying, this is not working, that's not working, things are not happening. But I don't really ever move towards creating anything. So ownership is very critical. What ownership is? Taking charge, taking complete ownership. And you know what? The other beautiful thing, two aspects. One is that I take charge, and then I don't sulk, I don't be a victim. I look at, okay, what more? How else? Okay, if this is not working, I still need to make it happen. In what way? The other aspect is people can sense it when you are owning it, when you're in ownership, because there's this immense power there. People get it, and then they respond. So just this morning, I was talking to one of the leaders who was very, very frustrated because people were not responding to his initiatives. They were not, taking charge. They were just behaving the way they were behaving, and he was really sulking. He was very upset. He was constantly thinking about it. Now that's not ownership. That's you're in the victim mode. You're blaming. What is important for him to see, and that's the discussion we initiated, is what is missing at his end. Is he really in ownership of that space? Is he owning that whole space? Is he owning his position? And is he really connecting? And that's where human connection also comes in, and that's missing. And when that's missing, people do what they're doing. They are where they are. But when he owns it up, he's going to show up very differently. His whole thing is, how do I make it work? How do I get my people to show up a certain way? And then people see it, they sense it, and then they respond in whatever way. It just happens, it works.
What I say is that sometimes when you take ownership, the surrounded people around, these kind of challenges happen. What you are trying to say, right? And how do we bring such kind of an alignment when they take ownership? That's one point. Now, why lack of ownership leads to stagnation, blame games, and burnout? Is there something that we can have as a step to take that kind of a role there?
Okay, so are you saying that ownership leads to stagnation and all of that, and how do we deal with it? Is that the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, see, if I really look at when there is lack of ownership, um, like I said, the opposite, when it's not, it's like one has to exist because it's a way of life. Okay, so if there's no ownership, then there has to be something else. There's some way in which I'm showing up. If I'm not owning it up, then what am I doing? I'm being a victim. I am blaming. When I'm a victim, I'm blaming.
Yeah.
I'm constantly looking for people, for reasons to put the whole onus or responsibility on. That's when there's no ownership. Now, when there is no ownership and I am blaming, I'm going to be blaming circumstances, I'm going to be blaming people around me. Now, when I am blaming, uh, I'm not even in the present moment. I'm not there right in that moment. So if I'm talking to you and in my mind or maybe out loud, I'm blaming you, hey, this is not happening. And then I told you this and that. I'm either in the past, I'm constantly bringing that past, or maybe I'm thinking about the future, this should have happened, or how will this happen now? And I'm worried and I'm anxious or I'm regretting. I'm not even there in the present moment. And present moment is where creation happens. Present moment is where that's all that is, that's all there is. What can we create right now? Now, when I am in that blaming mode constantly, imagine what will happen to the other person. The other person will be like, please go to hell. I don't care. So it's not a battle of right or wrong. What people most often get into is who's right. Oh, he doesn't understand, but I'm right. It's not a question of right or wrong. We are all emotional beings. You need to go and meet your people where they are. They may not be where you are emotionally and mentally, and you need to get that. But when I don't get that, and I constantly expect them to show up a certain way, they don't, and then I blame, then I am kind of repelling them. They want to move away from me. So then I'm in my zone, they are in the zone. There is no alignment. You see, it's a very different energy. We are on different pages. There's no alignment. When there's no alignment, we are not in it together. On paper, we are a team, but we're not really a team. And when that's happening, it is bound to lead to stagnation, and then growth cannot happen. It may be a very superficial growth in terms of numbers. Huh? We've done this target, we've done that, all of that. But the real growth, which is the power of a team, doesn't happen because there's no alignment. So I think this it's so important. Therefore, ownership in terms of not because I'm wrong, and therefore I need to kind of bow down. It's not that. It's just that as a leader, it's my space, these are my people, this is my target, this is what do I want to
Hmm.
create, and am I taking charge of that? And when I take charge of that, then no matter what, I will try and bring in the alignment. I'll figure out a way and I'll bring in that alignment. And that's where growth happens. The team cannot move ahead if there's no alignment.
Now, can tools and strategies ownership in teams made available? Is that a possibility?
Okay, so you're saying, are there some tools and ways
Yes.
in which ownership can be cultivated?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the beauty is that ownership, like anything else, any other, if I have to use the word skill, it can be cultivated for sure. We're not born with it; we can always cultivate it. Um, how can I do that? I think all of these things. So when I am in a blaming mode, when I'm in a victim mode,
Hmm.
I've gotten so good at being victim that it comes naturally to me, right? So if I'm constantly blaming somebody, then I don't even have to think. Any occurrence, anything, instantly I'll figure out an excuse, instantly I'll find out somebody to blame or put responsibility on or not take charge. Now, the way I have cultivated being a victim and blaming over a certain period of time, I wasn't born with that either. The way I've cultivated that, I can switch to and cultivate ownership now. So what it requires for me is to first step, even before I can take ownership, is to be aware, to really know what am I doing. So any change begins with awareness, right? So it's a beautiful Oh, okay, maybe I'll just come to that in a while. But the moment I get aware that any situation, this is how I show up. This is how instantly I get in a blame mode. This is how I get defensive every time. And maybe that's not serving me. When I'm willing to get aware, build awareness, when I'm willing to reflect on what is the impact of the way I'm showing up on myself and my team as well, that is when I can bring about taking charge, or maybe shift to a different way of being. So the first step, I think anybody who wants to cultivate ownership is start to get aware. And what does awareness mean? It means that in any situation, any interaction, when I'm living my day to day life, I get so present. What is happening within me? What kind of thoughts am I engaging with? What kind of feeling that is giving me? When I have that kind of a feeling, what do I do? How do I show up? What kind of an action or behavior do I give? And then what is the impact of that action or behavior? Right. When I start to get aware, I will start to catch myself. And the moment I catch myself, I have an option to switch, to respond in a different way. Right. So there's this, I think earlier also I mentioned about this. There's a 4A framework that I, often talk about. It's been a great help to me. And the 4A is the first one being awareness, which is I'm so aware of what's happening within me. Unless I'm aware, I can't change anything. The second A is acceptance, that I'm accepting and not resisting who I am being and who others are being. So for example, you and me, we are talking, and I'm seeing that I'm instantly getting into this mode of blaming you for what has happened or for what has not happened. So I get aware. The next step is I accept it. Accept what? That okay, I'm getting in the blame mode, and that's okay. No worries. At least I'm able to recognize it. Let me not fight that. How dare I do this? No, no, no. Can I accept it? So now I've saved that energy, and I'm just there. The third A is analysis, which means I quickly check with myself, where is this blame coming from? So there could be a belief that I'm carrying about brain. There could be a belief that I have about myself. There could be a belief about maybe the situation, the context that is there, the organization. What is really holding me back? Right, from maybe expressing, maybe having and sitting and having a conversation with you, having a discussion with you, what's holding me back? So I quickly do that analysis, and I'll be able to see, oh, when Prem said this, I got triggered. Or when Prem said this, to me it meant as if, oh, I'm not a good leader. Is that what he's trying to say? So I'll actually be able to figure out what is happening within me. And the moment I'm seeing that this trigger of mine, this blame of mine is coming because something that Prem said or did triggered something in me, my belief, I can then go to the fourth A, which is alternative choice. Every time my action is to blame, my action is to run away from the situation, my action is to just give up. But now I have a choice. When I see that I'm just getting triggered, I can now say, okay, do I still want to run away? Do I still want to blame? Or maybe it's difficult, but let me sit down and have a conversation. Let me sit down and say, okay, Prem, what more can we do here? What else can we bring in here? I know you don't agree with me, but how can we bring in alignment here? And that's where I'll bring in a different choice. So awareness, acceptance, analysis, and then the moment I get present to it, I can bring in alternative choice. 4A requires practice. It's a journey, but I can tell you, no rocket science. You can start to build ownership.
You are right in saying that somewhere we have to start. Otherwise, we don't get to know where we are stuck,
Yeah.
right? So somewhere you are aware of some doing things from there. So start from where you are and what you have, right? So that's where I think that's an important point that we
Yeah.
should balance ownership with and trust, because there is always a fear, right? So if I delegate my points, will they do? Will that be the way that I want this activity or the pointer to be done? So you
Okay, so you're saying how can a leader balance ownership with delegation and trust? Right.
yes,
So, see, I think um, when we talk about delegation, trust, these kind of go hand in hand. Quite often, leaders do not delegate because trust is
mm,
missing. right? And
Yeah.
when it comes to, and these are non-negotiables. If you see, effective leaders are people who can build more leaders, who can empower more people to become leaders. Now, if you want to grow more leaders, you want to make
Yeah.
more leaders, create more leaders, then you need to delegate. As a leader, you need to trust and then delegate. So trust, it's like you start from a place of trust. You already trust your people, and that's where you start from, and then you start delegating, right? Now, here comes ownership. Right, here comes ownership, where um, I look at it from a like a macroscopic view, and I say, okay, this is the kind of environment I want. This is the kind of team I want. This is the kind. These are my people. This is how I want to build them, right? And I am owning it, which means um, I'm taking charge. My people, after I delegate, they may make mistakes. My people may not be able to create the outcomes that they want. They may sometimes falter. They may sometimes betray my trust, right? I do not get into sulking. I do not get into doubting myself. I do not get into, again, blaming. Oh, or I don't get into creating beliefs like, oh, see, this guy betrayed me, and there's no way I'm going to trust people again. I own it up, and and one important part of ownership is then I constantly look at, okay, what lessons have I learned here? I'm owning the whole process. Owning the whole environment. I'm owning my actions. I'm owning my thoughts. I am owning what is holding me back from creating the environment, creating the safe space, from showing up more powerfully. I'm owning every bit of it. So, all the good things are mine. As much as the good things are mine, things that are not so great are also mine. More leaders taking charge, growing is mine. They are not able to do it is also mine. I own all of it. So that's where I feel ownership and delegation, trust kind of go hand in hand. And I think coming from ownership is a very powerful place, even within the context of delegation and trust, to kind of build this up.
Pointer taken there. Now, how there is always that trust ownership gap. That's where I wanted to understand. Now, why is human connection not talked about enough in performance conversations?
Why is yeah, that's a good one, critical one. Because when
Yeah.
every time I see, somehow the sense that I'm getting is that um, within the whole environment, and the competition, and the chase for numbers, and to survive and grow the business, we've gotten so engrossed and carried away, and not wrong, I would say, but yes, the whole focus has gone to the numbers and what all is happening there, the team size, the team performance in terms of the numbers, who's performing, who's not performing. And the big miss somewhere, or I'd say most of the times, is the human resource, which is your employees, the team members. um, how are they feeling? So because the way they feel is exactly how they're going to show up, how they're going to act, how they're going to behave. All the investment of effort and time that leaderships do with respect to these people, the agenda is, okay, let's do this, let's help them grow so that they can perform better, so that we can have bigger numbers. So everything boils down to that. But never ever, or rather very rarely, the focus ever comes to, okay, how are they even there together? How do they operate together? And this reflection on their camaraderie with each other, their relation with themselves and then with the others, how is that impacting the performance? So, two things happen. One, maybe the leaders themselves are not aware. They have not been exposed to this idea of looking at performance. Therefore, no discussions around it. Two, the whole process, the system is so much like a mechanical clockwork. Let's do it, let's do next. So, even if there are initiatives around this, they are very, very quick, very superficial, I would say. And therefore, it figures only very, very momentarily, and in a very superficial way. Okay, this is done, this training is done, we've had a conversation around this, but no consistent work around this, or no effort around human connection happens, because there's so much of rush to create numbers, to do stuff, and to get ahead from your competition and others. So I feel, therefore, so one is the rush, and second is maybe no exposure, maybe no idea around the potential that focus on human connection can lead to.
That rush of numbers is the major problem creator. I think that's where I think most of the people look at forgetting what how empathize with the team is what I feel. Take
It, Prem,
on a lighter note.
it's interesting, Prem. It starts right from the childhood, the number game. Get good
Yeah,
grades. You're
okay,
not
yeah,
scoring, you're not
perfectly
studying.
asked.
The teachers and parents, they kind of squeeze the child. Yeah, that's how we've been conditioned.
I get that. Now I am able to relate. So also say that, right? You get good grades, I'll take you there. You get good grades. It's a carrot that is given to kids when we
Yeah,
start, right? So, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
How can leaders build meaningful connections or seeming too emotional? This pointer I want to add, I want to ask also is sometimes either they don't connect or they connect too much.
Hmm.
That's the piece that I feel, right? So, what is your take on it? Aastha?
Okay. So you're saying sometimes leaders connect too much. Either they don't connect or they'll connect too
Yes,
much. Is that what you're saying?
they connect. Yes, yes, yes. Right.
Okay. 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 Yeah. So, okay, the two parts to it. So, one is, how can leaders build meaningful connections? I think again, it starts by, in a relationship everywhere, we need to fundamentally understand that, what is in my control versus what is not in my control. So quite often, when there is a relationship, whether it is a husband wife, parent child, or it is colleagues and or a boss subordinate, any relation, it doesn't matter, the other person is not in my control. How he shows up is not in my control, and we need to understand this, because there is a constant expectation of how the other person should show up, how the other person must respond. And that is the cause of pain. That is the cause. And this doesn't start on day one. In any relation, day one is all hunky dory, it's all good, there's an understanding. It's like a clean slate. You look at the person, like, wow, nice. Yeah, we start the conversation and all. And then we build certain expectations of, depending on what that relationship is, what the context is, this is how he's supposed to show up. What we forget is, just the way my expectations and my thought of how the relation should be is coming from where, it's coming from my belief system, what I have grown with, what my understanding is, what my lens of viewing the world is. Similarly, the other person also has a belief system, the way he's been brought up, and he has his own past experiences and everything, which I have no idea about. So, what we do, and that's where the problem happens, is we jump into this from with expectations and our own ideas, and we try to control the behavior and actions of the other person our way. When they do, and obviously, I'm going to not get what I want, because the other person is not even aware, he's coming from his belief system. When I don't get what I want, when things don't happen my way, I start to get upset. And next level, I don't even communicate and talk about it. I don't come let the other person know, you know what, this is disturbing me. Can we sit down and arrive at an agreement or see how we can work things out? We don't do that. So a clean slate on day one, small dots start to appear. Oh, there's this one, grudge that I hold, another grudge that I hold, another one. And slowly over time, when it is not addressed, it grows into a full blown mess, clutter. And then when it gets too messy, it feels like a Herculean task. No, no, we can't sort this out. Maybe this is not working. So either I'll fire somebody, or maybe people get divorced, or whatever happens. Or maybe they start at a stage where it gets very difficult. So, the key to human connection is this basic understanding that I come from my belief system, the other person comes from my belief system, from his belief system. And can we come together, understanding that we are all different people with different upbringing? And now, can we talk? Communicate, which means not everybody will agree with what I am saying, how I think, how I feel. They can't think like me. So, can we have an alignment? Can we come to agreements rather than getting stuck in expectations? So, I can say, okay, Prem, you know what, this is somewhere not working. Can we just sit down and, figure out a way of doing this? Prem will say, yeah, Astha, but this part I'm not able to somewhere align with. Okay, Prem, how do you think we can do this? There may be arguments, there may be heated discussions, there may be, but if we are both somewhere, we ultimately reach an alignment, it's all sorted. And then there are different aspects to it. We set a context, we set our intentions. You know what, this relationship is important for me, I really want this to work. Can we figure out a way? I know there's something which is not right between us. Can we sit down and talk? Creating a safe space for whatever that relation is, where both of you can speak. So I think the key is that to understand the other person is not in your control. Number two, the work has to happen here, which means what can I bring in? Don't sit down and wait for the other person. You take charge. Again, ownership comes in. And then number three, create a space where communication flows. The big, if you have to tell me one single thing which is the cause of poor relations, it is lack of communication, I would say. So that to me is the key.
I I definitely will agree for that, because this most of the communication skills are I didn't understand, or what you told was not clear. That is not asked at the right time. I think the whole issue of communication, misunderstandings, and lack of clarity comes in. I've seen teams where they don't. I'll take one example. There's one person called David Matthew. I think I've referred this to earlier discussion also. He used to say, "Don't jump in talk. Let's listen to what the person is telling, and then give a point by point statement saying, now I'll go one by one. Point one said this, so this is my answer to it. Are we clear here? Did you understand? And again, so he used to give that step by step approach when anybody is giving, especially when there's high stake meetings happening, whether it is a project requirement gathering meeting. And most of the time, he will say, if you get your requirements gathered properly in that
Hmm.
requirements gathering meeting, I think you have done most of the work that is required,
Yeah.
right? So you point us of requirement, you finish saying that, sir, these are the 10 points that I've noted. This is what is the
Yeah.
expectation. Mr. X has this, putting this into the stakeholders requirement
Yeah.
doc. That's where I think the whole of the entire communication becomes clear. Now, how do we
Yeah.
look at small daily actions, trust within a team? So, daily habits, are there anything that you suggest?
Um, there can be a lot of little things that you can do every day. I will just But these are all the doing part of it. Action, what can I do every day? So that's the doing. If I take one step back, the doing comes from being. Who am I being? Which means, if if again I go back to between me and Prem, if towards Prem I am being angry, if I'm being very very um, you know I'm just not happy, there's stuff within me and I'm holding back, I'm being a victim, then even if I try to do certain things to bridge the gap, they will be very superficial. They cannot be authentic. And Prem, you will get it. That's the beauty.
Yeah,
You can't fake it. We all get it when people are doing something, but you feel there's a lack of alignment. What the person, his body language, his way of being, and what he's speaking, these are just poles apart. So people get it.
yeah,
And therefore, more than the action, again, it's who am I being? So the first step is to work on that part. And to your previous question also, where you were also saying that people who are too emotional, they get too much into it. And I'll
yeah,
explain this with one example. One of the organizations that I'm currently working with, and their leadership team, this leadership team, all people individually great, whatever they are doing, they're experts, technically no issue, right? But when it comes to them working amongst themselves, because they're all head of different departments, the camaraderie that they share is very important. But as we
mm,
went about communication, whether they're giving feedback to each other, no. Whether they are acknowledging each other, no. Whether they're letting each other know what's working, what's not working, no. Are they aware what part of them is not landing very well with the other person? So I don't find something good about the other person, but I'm keeping it to myself, and there's a grudge that I'm carrying. And I'm every day coming to office, we are working, and there's this grudge which is inside of me. Now, how can I enjoy? How can I be more productive? Now, as we were working, each of these people opened up about their barriers, their beliefs, what holds them back, what is their individual characteristic, and what happened as a result. One person sharing, everybody else was able to appreciate, this belief system of yours causes you to show up like this. I always wondered, why does he show up like this? Now I know. Okay, great. Okay, now can everybody give a feedback to each other, a constructive feedback? Are we all open to listen to it? Yes, we are. Great. Now, when people start to give feedback to each other in a way which is constructive, then that's a mirror for me. Then they suggest, okay, how can you really improve? I'm willing to hold you accountable. Okay, I'm willing to acknowledge you. What can you acknowledge the other team members for? What I'm trying to say is, the good part, the bad part, the not so great part, empowering, disempowering, you are in it together. The beautiful side of the relation as well as the not so beautiful side of the relation. When I start to connect, bond with somebody over both of these, that's when it starts to happen. So now what is happening is, they actually ask for help from each other, they actually support each other, they give feedbacks to each other, and now that's flowing to their teams as well, because it flows from top to bottom. So now it's flowing from there. So they are also able to see some of these people, how they have this whole thing of they're too emotional. And where is that too emotional coming from? So one of the ladies, she saw that as a child, she was deprived of the love and attention a child gets. Now she strives to get that from everybody around. So when her colleagues do not support her or they do not respond to her the way she wants, she gets really upset about it. Now that upset doesn't go down well with the other team members. They're like, what's the big deal? Why would you get so upset about something? It's professional. The key is, if I really want to change something about me, or I want somebody to change something about them, can I help them see why they're showing up for themselves? Can I create a space where I say, hey, let's sit down and see why you're showing up like this? And can I, so then from this being of owning it up, happy space, we are all in it together, when that's the being, then my daily actions will be, you know what, constructive feedback. My daily actions will be little things that I can acknowledge people for. Hey Prem, thank you so much. Yesterday you just finished that bit for me. It was a big help, you know. I really admire that. Thank you. But again, not superficial. There's no space for superficial stuff. We are all done with superficial stuff. You know, everybody wants that authentic, genuine connection. They want to feel love, they want to feel seen and heard. So, a couple of daily actions could be acknowledgements, right? Little acknowledgements about anything, smallest of the things. Expressing your gratitude, your thankfulness to your people, to your team members. Must do, right? Similarly, listening, conversations. You know, it could be you have your daily huddles. You can just have a meeting with your team where you're not talking work at all. You're just having fun together. You're just listening to each other. You know, so little thing. There could be so many of these. But I think what I would really want leaders and people to focus on is the being, the initial part of it. The doing will automatically flow.
I think one point that I want to add, and when we said is, you
Yeah.
said one thing is you don't talk projects at all, right? So when you don't talk projects at all, what happens is eventually you end up talking projects. So what used I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. When I was part of, we had these team meetings which were planned, and there was a set of budget that was given to our team meetings. If you had 5 projects for different size of the projects, my objective was to use that budget effectively. I made it an objective of my work itself. So every 4 months, I should take one team out. So 4 or 5 teams
Hmm.
I'm handling. So one team used to go out, and we used to tell the customer saying that my team is not out and we don't want to do any project stuff.
Hmm.
As I tell you, I've told this in is amazing connect in those 1 or 2 days that you have. They will not talk projects for the first day. Then somewhere that will start. The teams here, if I ask, somebody
Yeah.
may have faced a similar issue and they can tell me something as a solution. So this first day, if I'm taking them for a 2 day, sure that I stay one night with a campfire and have some food, have some
Yeah.
done late evening, and then the real conversations used to start. Sir, I have a project. In this project, I have a problem. Whom should I talk?
Hmm. Yeah.
Can you guide me? Conversations which I think 13 years I spent in that organization, these small trips have changed the entire project management structure itself for me at least. So I've
Yeah.
I can projects in the last in those 13 years from
Hmm.
value with 5 lakhs to say 25,000 crores, right? So that was the magnitude of project. Now every project had its own something else.
Yeah.
Perspective of getting the team listen was these kind of meetings, right? And you said very aptly said, this is where I thought I'll take that point. One last question of the day is, I want you to tell me or complete this sentence. Leadership is so. What is that you want to add there?
Leadership with, say, could you say the leadership?
Without
Huh?
ownership, without, am I audible
Yes, yes, you are.
clearly?
Leadership without ownership and connection
And
is,
connection is one. I just want you to complete that as a last statement for
I
the
would
day.
say, superficial.
Okay. I think
Because,
that's
yeah,
the answer I got. Has to be superficial. It has to be genuine,
yeah,
authentic, and empathetic. Yeah. So you cannot have a superficial. Oh, we'll do all this. Then there is no point that he does not do or that does not. Superficial.
then I
Am I right
think
saying that?
Yeah, then you are a leader only by virtue of the position, or maybe you're the eldest in the family, or that way, but it's superficial. In real sense, it's not there, because connection is not about I'm connected by blood. Connection is when you're really genuinely interested in other people, and that just shows.
And I think in that sense also, if you see bonding friendships that are there, is when people have heard about you don't need to tell me your pain, but I'm there. Relationships
Hmm.
have stood long, right? So, and that's
Yeah.
that's amazing to see such relationship.
Yeah, and just
So
bring one more thing.
coming to this
Just
point of
just one more thing that I quickly want to add on. It just came to me. A very important part of connection is, and where leaders need to take ownership is how they are talking, which means
mm,
how am I speaking with you, and how is
what
it
is the
landing
tone,
on you.
what
The tone, the words, use of words, the structure of the sentences, there has to be a lot
mm,
of intention and presence. That's why it is important. Am I present in the moment? Am I aware of what words are coming out of my mouth? Most leaders, so many of them, no, kills the relation.
and what I've seen as leadership also. I want those kind of statements also I've seen,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? That kills it at that.
Yeah.
Asta, so with this, Asta, I'll just summarize on few things that ownership and human connection essential in today's leadership as a landscape. That is, we spoke about ownership beyond accountability. What's that meant to be, right? And then we spoke about the 4 A's that you are talking about. So somebody has put a question also. I'll just bring that here. So he says, what is that 4 A's? You're able to see
Hmm.
that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Praveen
I do see that. Yeah.
have says
Praveen's.
4 A's questions. On it on the side. Yeah. So we'll
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll add pointers in the comments to you. Right? And then we spoke of tools, strategies, culture of ownership is what we spoke. Then we spoke of human connection is very important while we do performance conversations. Then
Yeah.
we spoke about cross border. Sometimes we see connect at all, right? That's the other point that we spoke. And our daily habits within team, what we spoke, and that's where we are saying. And last point is leadership connection. Superficial is what we concluded as, or we agreed, right? So that's the pointer that we did in the last session. Us for being here, and any pointers that you would like uh, for the audience to be known, or you want to pass a message.
Um, I think while we are talking about leadership, but I'd say ownership, it begins with self leadership. How am I leading myself? So even before how you lead your people, and are you taking ownership at your work, it boils down to, are you taking ownership of your own self? When, if I can't do that, I cannot take ownership at my workplace. So what does it mean? It means um, who do I want to be, whether it's my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, my spiritual one, all of that. Am I taking ownership of my life? And that's where it begins. So I would really urge leaders to look at growth from that aspect.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Asta. It's been great
Pleasure.
having you again here, and we are
Thank you so much, Pranav.
having you for the time. I think this is the third session that we are having with you, Asta.
Oh, is it the third? I thought second, the third one. Oh, is it? Wow.
Third one, yeah. So we did
Wow.
3 sessions, Asta, and the I think is immense. Yeah. So thank you, Asta. Have a good day, and bye for now, Asta.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prem. Thank you.